When you meet a jaded musician who says,
"I'm sorry, but it simply isn't possible to make a living in music,"
they're probably trying to do you a favor and just save you some heartache.
Don't make the same mistake I made.
Good news! Making a living in music is possible. The only bad news is that it isn't easy. And that's not really all that bad of news. I mean, getting out of my comfy bed in the morning isn't easy, but I do that every day.
Well, almost every day.
Yet for some reason, there seems to be people everywhere who don't believe it's a thing. Some people think that sustaining yourself with your axe is akin to seeing Bigfoot in the wild. Bigfoot? It's like a paranormal activity reserved for lizard people like Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift.
Dear YouTube, please don't censor me for this. It's just a joke. I know they're not lizard people.
We can forgive non-musicians who've picked up this lack of belief out on the street. It's floating around everywhere. You can catch it like a cold. But it's harder to deal with non-believers who are musicians themselves. If you're young or just starting out on your path of trying to make a living in music, both of these species of naysayers can be a huge obstacle to your eventual success. The reason is that they can stunt your mental ability to go after your goals. When you meet a jaded musician who says,
"You should just get a normal job. I'm sorry, but it simply isn't possible to make a living in music,"
you might just take their advice. And why shouldn't you? They might be right. They really might be. As a reasonable person, you know it's important to take advice from your elders. But there's always the chance that they're wrong. If this naysayer is themselves a jaded musician, they're probably talking from their own experience. They may have had similar ambitions to you, but unfortunately have not been able to meet their goals. For whatever reason, doing something along the lines of what you want to do was not possible for them. Trying to do it but not being able to may have been painful for them. So when they tell you,
"I'm sorry, but it simply isn't possible,"
they're probably trying to do you a favor and just save you some heartache.
Don't make the same mistake I made.
Being on the receiving end of such dejected wisdom tends to have two opposite yet connected effects. One is negative, but if you can find it, the other is positive. The negative one is more obvious and palpable. It's easy to feel depressed and demoralized upon hearing a laundry list of reasons why the thing that you've dreamt of doing
simply isn't possible.
But if you dig deep and find your resolve, if you really do believe in yourself, it's possible to take this as a challenge. You can allow their negativity to activate your inner Michael Jordan. Their very jadedness, that "I couldn't do it and neither can you-ness," can be the very thing that lights a big old fire under your ass. You can let that shit motivate you to go out there and do what the naysayers never could.
Okay, fine, you can have that. I'm gonna get this.
Story time. I've been making a living as a musician for well over a decade now, so I haven't had to worry about other people's jadedness rubbing off on me in quite a while. But recently I've had to reface it. It brought me back to being 18 and having to fend off naysayers like a jungle hiker swatting away mosquitoes. You see, once you have a solid income built up, you can simply say to the doubters,
"Hey, I hate to break it to you, bud, but you're wrong. I'm already doing the thing, and it's working."
It feels great whenever you can say that, but when you're at the beginning of your journey, all you have is a dream. All you can defend is your vision. You've got nothing concrete to point to.
You have nothing.
As for me, I can point to past successes, sure, but I just moved from the world-class music scene that is Philadelphia to the small island of Maui. And truth be told, the fact that I was able to thrive in Philly doesn't mean that I'll be able to do it here. The population of the entire island of Maui is 1/10 that of Philly. And that's just Philly proper. The population of the Philadelphia metropolitan area is 41 times bigger than that of Maui. Not to mention that New York City, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and a lot of other great cities are a short drive from Philly. Here on Maui, I'm surrounded by the Pacific on all sides. So it's an altogether different situation.
That's why when I've met a few people here who've asserted that it's
Simply isn't possible
to make a living as a musician on Maui, it kinda got to me. I've already had my share of anxieties about moving here and that there would be no work for me to find in my field. I've coped with some of those feelings by telling myself that I'd
Build an online empire and overtake Mr. Beast as the first billionaire YouTuber.
and that I'd use my magical powers to
Befriend Willie Nelson and become his bestie and tour the world with him.
But you know, neither of those things sound super practical. Like, it's not what I'd expect a stranger to believe. And so hearing that there isn't really any work for musicians here confirmed some of my biggest fears.
I'm scared. tired.
Quick note though, just to be clear, most of the people I've met here have been welcoming, positive, encouraging, and just all around wonderful. Shout out to the musicians who have already shown me what the Aloha spirit is all about. If you're watching this, you know who you are, and I thank you with all my heart. All right, now back to talking about jaded people.
So how can we cope with the types of emotions that these interactions bring up? And how should we deal with people like this during those interactions? First, I'll speak to the emotional piece. My advice is to try to stay calm and centered during these conversations. Remember that you are your own person. You have different skills to offer than the person you're talking to. And you have different skills to offer than anyone on the earth, for that matter. Realize that what the other person is telling you is based on their experience, and therefore it's their opinion. Instead of buying into their narrative, become curious about it. Try to investigate how they form their beliefs and see what you can learn about the world from them.
Rather than accepting or rejecting the premise of what your acquaintance is saying, stay neutral. A conversational method that I like to employ in situations like this is called the Socratic method. According to dictionary.com, the Socratic method is the use of questions as employed by Socrates to develop a latent idea, as in the mind of a pupil, or to elicit admissions, as from an opponent, tending to establish a proposition. Basically, you employ a series of friendly questions to uncover the root causes of the other person's beliefs. The 5 fundamental questions of the Socratic method are: what do you mean by that? How do you know? Can you give me an example? What are the consequences of that? What is the counter-argument? By gently and kindly asking questions such as these, you give the other person a chance to speak at length about their experiences. It gives you the opportunity to learn from them without having to agree or disagree with their premises. Even if you plan not to follow their advice, if you are curious and kind, there is almost always something that you can learn.
When you leave the interaction, it's useful to take a moment to reflect. What did you learn from the conversation? Where do you agree and where do you disagree? What can you do differently from them to succeed where they haven't been able to? And if you're a competitive person, how can you harness your desire to prove them wrong to help motivate you to cultivate your inner fire? For some, like me, a little bit of healthy competition is just what I need to rev up my motivation, my creativity, and my work ethic. So in conclusion, it is possible to make a living as a musician, not just in major music markets, but in a wide variety of places. It's possible in Philadelphia, and it's possible in Hawaii. Will I be able to pull it off in Hawaii? Only time will tell. Will you be able to pull it off wherever you are? I can't promise that either, but it is possible. With creativity, passion, hard work, and yes, some good old God-given talent, there is a way. Whoever you are, you'll be sure to encounter some jaded people along the way, both musicians and lay people.
You should just get a normal job.
But always remember that you are your own person. You can create your own opportunities. Whenever your unique offerings connect with and bring real value to a community, that's where your living is to be made. And if you can find that magical intersection, I believe you can make it practically anywhere.
The end.
As usual, this has been at least as much a personal reflection as it has been a tutorial. But whoever you are, I hope you found it useful. If you haven't already, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel to help out with the algorithm. Till next time, best wishes and aloha.